Hey, you're wide receiver Khalil Shakir, right?
I sure am, kid. Here, go long.
Whoa! You're pretty good at football, man.
And you guys are pretty good at pizza.
Oh, sick. Dude.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Postgame Show podcast here on Trainwreck Sports, presented by Picasso's Pizza. And we're celebrating a huge win tonight. The Bills beat the Ravens 27 to 25 in this one. It was an instant classic of a game. There was so much drama in this game. It comes down to the Ravens down 8 on their last drive of the game. They go down the field, score a touchdown, and Mark Andrews drops the 2-point conversion to tie in the end zone. He would have scored and tied it up, drops it, and the Bills recover the onside kick, and they escape 27-25 and move on to face the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship next Sunday, same time as this week, 6:30 Eastern in the AFC Championship. I mean, what a freaking game. What a roller coaster of emotions, but what a football game. This game was everything. If you were an unbiased observer to this game, you couldn't have asked for anything more except overtime. Honestly, this was an incredible football game. It starts out, both offenses electric, 7-7 start early on. Ravens go right down the field and score. The Bills go right down the field and score. And then the Bills take over in the second quarter. They're just unstoppable. The only drive in the first half that the Bills have trouble on is a drive where they get a holding call on a play where that Dion Dawkins has been doing that play all year long. The snatch and grab. He put a highlight reel. Dion put a highlight reel out about this play. It's been legal all year long. It's one of the worst calls of this game, and there were a lot of bad calls in this game. And that's the only drive that they got stopped in the first half, the Buffalo Bills. Because other than that, the Bills dominated that first half. They head into the break up 21-10 on the Ravens. And then in the third quarter, it's a whole lot of nothing, man. Whole lot of nothing. The Bills don't do anything in the third quarter offensively. The Ravens get 9 points. They have a touchdown drive. They get a field goal. They cut that lead down. It turns into a 21-19 game. And then it's a bunch of field goals back and forth. These defenses coming up with some big plays, especially in the fourth quarter. The biggest play, 24-19 Bills lead, and a pass over the middle over to a wide open Mark Andrews. And Terrell Bernard strips Mark Andrews and recovers the fumble himself. The biggest play of the game by far. That's the game. The Bills turn over Lamar Jackson and the Ravens 3 separate times. They intercept Lamar on the second drive of the game. Taylor Rapp, who is now out of this game. We'll talk about the injury report later on here. But Lamar throws a pick early on. Lamar, I don't even know what happened on that. Like, he missed. It was a bad snap, but he mishandles the snap as well. And fumbles. DeMar Hamlin actually forces the fumble, and then Von Miller scoops it up and runs about 50, 60 yards. But I wrote on Twitter right before the start of this game, the keys of this game were Josh Allen, 250 total yards, or over 325 total yards. He did not get that, but the Bills offense did not have an explosive day today. Josh had a 27 yards through the air. And James Cook, I said, needed to have over 125 yards. He did not have that. If you look at just the box score in this game, the Ravens dominated. The Ravens, 416 yards of offense to the Bills, 273. So they averaged 7 yards of play. The Bills averaged 4.5. Lamar was electric through the air, 240 yards passing, 18-25. He has the pick, though. They had more rushing yards today. They had more penalties, which is what hurt the Ravens all season long. And the time of possession was pretty even, but the 3 turnovers are the great equalizer in this game. If you don't play a clean game in this, you're really putting yourself behind. It was a 1-point spread coming into the game. Baltimore, a slight favorite. But if you turn the ball over as a road favorite, that's a recipe for a disaster, a recipe for an upset, quote unquote, right? So kudos to the Bills defense, because it was an impressive effort today to make those turnovers, we talk a lot about bend but don't break. We talk a lot about bend but don't break with this defense. But they did that today. They came through when they needed to with the turnovers. Let me get a tweet out here. Can they replicate this in KC? That's the real question. Can they replicate this in KC? What a game, though. What a game, though. I mean, just a classic. An absolute classic. Heavyweight fight. Lamar and Josh played great. Lamar, there's throws he wishes he could have back. There's throws Allen wishes he could have back in this game. But ultimately, these guys both played a hell of a game. Incredible competitors, both worthy of the MVP. This is a freaking classic, man. A freaking classic of a football game. It truly was. What more could you ask for? Zach McAdoo, this team is going to give me health problems. McAdoo, I'm scared. I'm glad I don't have an Apple Watch or something like that on right now, or Fitbit, because my heart rate would have been dangerous in this game. You know how sometimes that like the heart rate's in your throat or like, you know, up here, and it's just, you can feel it pounding. It was bad, bro. It was bad. I don't know. I personally don't know what I'm going to do next Sunday. Here's my early discussion, though, on the AFC Championship game. I'm more confident than I was this week. And maybe I'm crazy. I know I am. This is my mother here. Shout out my mom. Nice jersey. She did get me this jersey, and it's been a good luck charm in the playoffs, Mom. And I went to the game I went to this year, wore it. So 3-0 when I've worn this jersey this year. Big games, big night games. Huge. I'm more confident next week than I was this week. And I was fairly confident coming into this week. I could be wrong. But I think the Bills are better. I think the Baltimore Ravens were the best team they were going to play. Yeah, there's no way, McAdoo. It had to be at least maybe. But yeah, hey, listen, you're a nice, healthy guy, healthy young lad. Maybe it's just great heart rate, stuff like that. It could work out for you. Mine was high. It had to be high, pumping out the chest. What a game! What a game! Lamar, I mean, and Allen, the stats aren't gaudy. People are going to complain about him still if they want to and pick it apart. But he didn't make the glaring mistake. That's the biggest thing about this game. If you really think about it, that's the biggest thing about this game is that Allen did not make the glaring mistake. Joined by Mike Partham. Mike Partham here. I'm glad that you here. I'm glad that we're talking about a Buffalo Bills win and a trip to the AFC Championship, Mike. And I've just been, as I do on these post games, the first about 10 minutes is me just kind of gathering my thoughts and like, because, you know, like I'm sitting here talking to myself a lot too, so you're kind of just rolling on. The first thesis I'm coming on with this game, and it isn't actually the first thing. It's the main thing I said at the beginning too, but now talking about it from the Bills' perspective more. I said the key to the game before was getting a couple timely turnovers defensively. They did that in spades. But the reason the Bills win this game and the evolution of Josh Allen is that they did not have the mistake. They got crushed in the total yardage. It's like 413 to 270 or whatever. And the turnovers are the only thing that saved that. Now, you got to give credit to the defense, but we also have to look back at the years of Josh Allen, and it's to the microcosm of the one play where we all saw him give the look to James Cook to be like, oh, you scored the touchdown, and he holds back, and it
could have been the most awesome thing or the most disastrous thing ever.
Yeah, it could have been. It could have went either way, but instead we get the field goal, the conservative play. He makes the smart play decision in the moment, and that's the growth. And in that decision and a lot of other decisions in this game has them moving on to face Kansas City with a chance to go to the Super Bowl, Mike.
I was listening to the WGR as they are showing airing the press conferences, and I think briefly Show Up in the Bulldog, one of them mentioned the Bills have not had a fumble since week 4. And of course, Allen minimizing his interceptions this whole season. I mean, yeah, they've been keeping their mistakes, their turnovers to a minimum. And 1, 2, 3 turnovers for the Ravens in this game, 2 of them directly by Lamar, the so-called MVP, which we'll see how that works out. He was voted first team All-Pro, so it might as well be his, I guess. They're saying that. But,
well, now it's hilarious. Regardless,
the voting's
of what
all
happens,
over, so this game is not going to count for that, unfortunately.
No, yeah. It will be funny.
Do we feel like we escaped this game by the skin of our rear ends with that last drop?
Yes, 100%, Mike. But I would have been confident that the Bills got into field goal range if they got the ball back there with 2 timeouts in a minute 30 as well.
Yeah, you're right. In my mind, I was saying, it's going to go to overtime and it's going to be a flip coin again, and we're going to have to sweat it out if.
And I think
Baltimore gets the ball.
I think that's the equation McDermott makes too. When you decide to kick that field goal, it's like, even if they score in the next 2 minutes, I've got Allen, and all I have to do is get to the 30, the 29-yard line, the 28-yard line. And Bass's kick, it looked good. That's all day today. So, but yeah, it is a game by skin of your teeth. But hey, the line.
Yeah, Coach was just talking about his confidence in Bass going for that 51-yard field goal, ice in his veins, literal ice in his veins with the weather out there today. And saying how important it was for Bass to have confidence in himself. Like, the coach can have confidence. If you don't have confidence in yourself, it won't matter in the end.
Exactly. And it's so huge for kickers, especially too.
So it was a little bit of a microcosm again, where we let the defense lets the opposing offense just go down and score a touchdown. And then they seemed to tighten up for that first half. And we did the job of containing Derrick Henry. And then the second half, they made adjustments or they found holes. Hill was the other guy who was running pretty hard. I don't know if they were keying so much on Derrick Henry that they forgot that there were 1 or 2 other running backs on the Ravens that could run. But and then Henry was able to find holes and make his adjustments. So yeah, I guess maybe containing him for a half is certainly, I'll take that for over what happened last game for the entire game.
Yeah, for sure. And Henry does tend to lean on you late in games like that. And that one drive, I mean, they just bullied them on that touchdown drive in the third quarter. The Justice Hill thing was interesting. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, why is he just popping off these huge runs? I do think some of it had to do with the Bills changing back to lighter personnel when Henry came off the field, and then the Ravens still to be.
Yeah, I was figuring they were anticipating more passing situations when Derrick Henry wasn't on the field, and the Ravens were able to catch them in different formations.
Yeah, and more willing to make that trade-off there as well. But I mean, the Ravens have 400 yards of offense. They really could do a lot what they wanted to, and it's the turnovers that killed them in this game. Whether it be, I don't know what the miscommunication. I think it was as much of anything on the route with Bateman on the interception by Rapp. Lamar in the first half, I don't know if it was jitters or if he was legitimately affected by the weather. I think it was probably a little bit of both, but he's fumbling a couple snaps, and it comes down on that fumble because the snap was kind of off target a little bit, but still a play you would imagine him to make cleaner than that. And he had fumbled a snap earlier in that drive too at the end of the first quarter. And then Von Miller, I was like, oh my God, if Von Miller returns this for a touchdown, that would be one of the main highlights in history. And then the Bernard play is that's Terrell Bernard just making one of the best plays of his career that we'll ever see. Like, that was such an awesome.
And Matt Milano coming through with a deflection on the earlier 2-point conversion. Yes. So having those guys, instant dividends.
How good did Matt Milano look today? Like, Matt Milano looked like he was healthy, like fully healthy again.
Yeah, he was going sideline to sideline. I saw him contain Lamar a couple times, even though Lamar can still make a good play down the field, as we know Josh Allen can make as well.
Yeah.
What else about this game? Oh, about Lamar, going into, I was saying this on the preview, what I was hearing from the Baltimore prognosticators was the key whenever the Ravens were playing poorly was they would make a lot of penalties, which I don't think they had too many in this particular game.
No.
But if you contain Henry, if you stop the run early and you get up on them early enough, you can make Lamar start throwing down the field and start making mistakes, which that one interception, he overthrew it pretty much. And then he got a little bit rattled when he was getting pressured and he fumbled the ball, which Vaughn picked up. So he looked a little more composed in the second half, especially when his run game started to support him there. But I didn't really see them picking on who was that guy? There was the one cornerback on the Brandon Stevens. Yeah,
No,
I saw Trey
yeah.
White out there a few times instead of Brandon Stevens. I don't know if the Bills tried to target whoever he was covering in this particular game, but I didn't see him getting burnt on anything. Not a whole lot of production from the wide receiver end of the Bills. Guys like Keon Coleman got only like maybe a couple targets and one catch. I didn't see maybe Amari Cooper got one target in this game.
And they mentioned on the broadcast too that he wasn't really even on the field that much in this game either. When he got that target, Cooper wasn't on the field a lot in this game either. So I'm interested to see what the snap count is, but apparently he was not used in this game. And I think that was a lot of the play calling issues in the third quarter were that the guys weren't winning on the outside a lot. The Bills were winning by running the ball effectively and like the quick game through the air. But Josh only had 127 yards, 16 to 22, 127 yards.
Amazing.
It's crazy.
I think someone mentioned on Twitter that the other three games, divisional games this week, all the teams that outgained their opponent went 3-0. And here we are, bucking the trend, of course.
Naturally. And I believe, the only home underdog of the week too, as well. And then getting the win outright as well, which is a crazy thing there. It's we got another drop.
Oh, we got Maniac at the scene of the crime. Here we go.
There he is.
What do we got? Am I here?
You are here, Zach.
I know I'm catching up. I'm merging into traffic. I know we're already talking about how, KC level of confidence, but this Bills team just doesn't know how to die. They got alligator, but they had they gave, with respect to this Bills roster, all 53 guys, the coaches, everything. They almost tried to give that game away today.
Yep.
They really, 21-10, 21, whatever you want. They really threw things into neutral. I was already waiting for the off-season of misery that, McDermott, McDermott neutered Allen when he went up 11 or whatever. But truthfully, I think that was justified when you look at it all. They really held, they didn't force the punt. It's kind of fucked up, but they didn't really, let the Ravens completely do everything they wanted. There was some level of resistance there. Lamar Jackson made fucking plays. That was my takeaway from today. My goodness, how many times did the Bills have him dead to rights? And it's just so hard to rush, especially on a slippery field. The guy is so shifty. I give him credit. Listen, I give him credit, but Lamar Jackson's going to the golf course. We're going to Kansas City. As far as I'm, looking. So I look at the first matchup. I look that we were very effective running the ball. We were also very effective getting pressure on Pat Mahomes. I know that's the ultimate, dummy thing to say, but I think getting pressure on Pat Mahomes at the end of the day next week is going to decide a lot.
Huge. The biggest thing in this game, I mean, and you just mentioned it, Mike, about the penalties. There were only 6 penalties in this game. Ravens 5 of them. The Bills only the one holding call that killed that drive. Still the discipline hurting the Ravens in that game. Look at that.
Popping out for the vibes real quick.
Look at the vibe.
Nice.
Nuts.
Look at the vibes and the turnovers, man. The Bills are one of the best turnover defenses in the league this year.
Boys, I heard all season you're not going to be able to depend on these turnovers. Yep. You're not going to be able to depend. Well, Terrell Bernard lays a hammer onto Mark Andrews, and he forces a play when it happened. I mean, it was insane, and the recovery. What a play!
It was an incredible play. And DeMar, too. DeMar to get the ball out. I mean, Lamar had that ball back in his hands, and DeMar punches it out. And Von Miller, how amazing would it have been in the stadium if Von Miller runs into the end zone on the scoop and score. It was a beautiful moment regardless, but what a crazy play.
That one, I know Von Miller needed like a ventilator or whatever after.
I'm sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's just like we say them all season. Victory Monday. I think it's more like you strap in mentally for the next opponent. But I look at this one like, yeah, we got to focus on Kansas City right now. I'm sure McDermott's about to get like in the office, literally right when he leaves his press conference or whatever. But I was just talking, my girlfriend Lauren, and with you boys here, like 10-0 at home.
Yes.
That is something that hasn't been done in 3+ decades. There it is, John Robert. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
You're a little low in your mic there, Maniac. I don't know if you got to get closer or something. You're holding your thumb over a microphone or something. I'm not sure.
God, is that better?
Yeah, you got it.
Sorry about that. I went underwater for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, anyone can rewrite whatever narrative they want about this Bills team. But if you had told anybody on earth that they go 8-0 at home in the regular season and 2-0 at home in the playoffs, they would have given you 10, 20 to 1 easily, for sure.
Yep.
Not even a question. So I mean, probably way more. I'm lowballing. Probably 50 to 1, 100 to 1 could be in that neighborhood. But it's just amazing what they've done, and I truly think, yeah, we're gonna see some of what worked last time against Kansas City, but I wouldn't be surprised if Brady has a whole bag ready to go. This is our big revenge spot.
I agree. I'm confident. So let's do the last couple minutes here and talk about KC. We're gonna talk about KC a lot this week, so let's not get it all into it right here. But I said before you guys both jumped in here, it might sound crazy. Look at that beast.
And that's the bottom line because Josh Allen said so.
I said right before you guys got in here, I'm more confident going into next week than I was this week, and I picked the Bills win this week. I think the Bills are better than this Kansas City team. They have some voodoo magic, some deal with Satan, whatever they're gonna do and sprinkle all over the place.
Wizardry, whatever you want to call it.
The bullshit will happen. I think the Bills are better, and I think they can win this game by a touchdown if they play their game. I truly believe that. Now, does Mahomes pull some shit out and maybe win this game and go to the Super Bowl again? Of course. It's a possibility. But if I'm looking at it objectively, I truly believe the Bills should win this game next week. And I'm interested to see what the line is. I haven't seen it yet, Maniac. I don't know if you have.
I'm interested to see what the officiating crew is.
FanDuel is opened at -1.5, and the money. The money line is a virtual pick 'em. Bills are -107. KC is -110. So they are calling this one a virtual pick 'em. KC -1.5.
I wonder if it flips to Buffalo like
they're
it
giving
did
all
to,
the credit in the world to the. They're begging you. They are begging you.
Bet against KC at home in the AFC title,
begging
guys.
You to take
we
KC.
are telling you, yeah. Whoa, it's gonna be interesting to watch that this week. Wow, this is crazy, man. I thought I would. I don't know how nervous you thought. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm lagging. I will see you boys in the bed. Let's enjoy this. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Sounds good. Go Bills. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit of KC. We'll be back on the show on Thursday, and that'll be great because then we'll have a couple more days to kind of sit with this and really start previewing KC. But a classic game tonight, and now we go. And it's the full redemption path that we laid out before the playoffs to go through everybody. And now here it is. Get to the Super Bowl, face the Goliath once again. KC in Kansas City, AFC Championship, much like it was in same situation in 2020. You beat Baltimore in the divisional in a close one, and now you're going to Kansas City. This team feels way more like this feels way more. I
feel a little more confident going into this one again, not just with this more mature Josh Allen, but against this particular KC team. Although, we say they've been winning by the skin of their asses with a horseshoe, stuck up it. They've been beating a few teams pretty decisively. They beat the Texans in the regular season matchup, 27-19. They throttled the Steelers 29-10, although the Steelers are paper tigers. We all know that. Before that, they beat the Browns 21-7. They've gotten some guys back. They've gotten Pacheco back. I believe they've gotten Hollywood Brown back. So it's not they were down at least 2 or 3 offensive weapons the last time we saw them. So if we're going to say, we were down 2 or 3 defensive weapons, last time we saw the Ravens, we got to give the same credit to the Chiefs when we go over there.
100%. The offense has been clicking the last couple of games. And they even started slow in that game against Houston and kind of figured it out. Kelsey has been a weapon at the end of the season. They just kind of put him in the back of the tank for most of the season, and then have unleashed him there. So he's going to be an issue. And you know how deadly the Bills, I think we talked about it last week. They're like 30th and third down defense this year, and Patrick Mahomes on third down offense is literally the best of all time. So that's going to be the biggest matchup of this game is the Bills getting, doesn't even matter. Like that's as stressful as this game was. Next week's going to be worse because it's going to be 3rd and 13 and I'm not going to feel safe with the way the Bills defense is compared with Patrick Mahomes. But if the Bills offense, if they don't, like the Bills today, Maniac was right about this. And I don't know if I agree with it saying that it worked out and that it was the smart move. They basically punted away the third quarter and took the ball out of Josh Allen's hands. And I get it. The running game, you wanted to lean on Cook, and it did end up working out. But I would have been pedal to the floor, like trying to take a shot somewhere in there, doing something. I think that's, if you do that in the first half, if you bottle up what you did in the first half and can replicate that in Kansas City, it's going to be hard. Kansas City doesn't have even with those weapons back, they don't have the firepower like Baltimore had to keep up with you in this game if you're in the 30s. I truly don't think that they can do that like a game in the divisional a couple years ago or even last year. If this game is like a 27-25 range, I'm way more worried that KC pulls it out. If you get to 30, if you're Buffalo, I feel really good about your chances next week.
Yeah, I do too. Going back to Kelsey, I mean, this last game against Houston, 117 out of 177 yards. Patrick Mahomes only 177 yards passing. I mean, we were talking about Josh Allen having a sub 200 game and still coming out on top. Patrick Mahomes is in that same category for his divisional game as well. And Kelsey, by far and away, the best, most productive receiver. The next guy in line last game was Xavier Worthy, 5 catches, 45 yards. So, I mean, Kelsey's making up over half of the passing offense in the last game. If Kelsey's back, if he's been held back, or maybe he just needed the whole year to get into form, get into shape, then I mean, how do we answer him again? I mean, he's been the bugaboo of everybody that's come against KC in these playoffs so far, and he's certainly been one of our guys that how did he get that wide open?
Well, and Mike, if you want to, it's not really an encouraging sign to take from today, because if you look at the box score, the leading receiver for the Baltimore Ravens today was Isaiah Likely. I think he had 4 for 73. Mark Andrews, regardless of the two big mishaps, was 5 for 61 today. So tight ends put 120 yards on this Bills defense this week. The weakness of this Bills defense, if you're going to attack, is like that middle. The middle of the second. It really is the middle of the secondary. And even honestly, the second back half of this season is Rasul Douglas has been getting torched a lot of times. There's a lot of plays where Douglas has been picked on more often. So the secondary is the weakness of this team. And those third downs and Kelsey, big over the middle is something to look out for, because the Ravens were able to attack. How many plays today where Lamar rolled out to his right a little bit and then floated the ball to the middle of the field to somebody wide open for 15 yards? Yeah. Like the Ravens had that all open all day long.
And it looks like we might be risking Taylor Rapp. I haven't had any update on him yet. I don't think McDermott gave any update on his on the press conference yet. But it looked like Teron Johnson, gave us a scare with a shoulder injury and he got back into the game. So looks like he should be good to go next week. Yep. How about, speaking of people coming back from injuries, how about Ray Davis? 1 week out removed from a concussion, he gets a touchdown. He gets some big runs.
He was awesome. I mean, he had some real juice, like running the ball today. It was really great to see, and great to see them like trusting him in the moment. It's a rookie in a playoff game, and they trusted all their running backs. They obviously Cook is the bell cow, 17 for 67, but Ty Johnson got carries, Ray Davis got carries. Allen obviously carrying the ball a bunch, a lot of sneaks and stuff today. So everybody touched the ball, everybody ate on that offense. But yeah, them trusting Ray Davis. If this team is going to win the Super Bowl, it's with the three-headed rushing attack contributing in the next 2 games in a big way. So that's where we're at, and I'm fairly confident in all the matchups remaining, no matter who it would be. I'm fairly confident in the KC matchup, and I think this is the toughest game remaining. And if we were to get to it, a Philadelphia or Washington matchup, I would feel better about it than either of these two games. That's how I would put it.
Well, there's one matchup you have to still consider, and that's the best friends of Patrick Mahomes wearing black and white, because it got to a point where even Joe Buck and Troy Aikman were just
they were pissed,
outwardly saying, "What is going on here?" with some of these ticky-tack calls and calls that, I thought there was a sky judge that was supposed to be able to overrule penalties.
So what's the better story?
Right?
What's the better storyline? I don't know. I don't know if they do that as much anymore, or if they've toned down on that, or toned down on telling us when they do that. I don't know exactly if they're as transparent about the sky judge. Oh, what was I? I think I just lost my train of thought. What were we talking about a second before? Damn. I'll get it come back.
Matchups.
It'll come back to me. I don't know. What were we? Yeah, I don't know. I lost it. We'll come back to it. We'll come back to it. I just feel
Mahomes. We have to fight Kelsey. We have to fight the voodoo magic. We have to fight the refs.
Oh, what's the better? So you're the NFL, and the answer is probably pretty obvious. But there are two pretty juicy storylines here, because you could have the three-peat, the dynasty, everything else,
yeah.
or you
what
can
does the
finally
NFL want?
if we're talking in a wrestling terms here, you could finally push Josh Allen, the super baby face, gets the big win, thwarts the three-peat, and gets his chance for
finish the story.
Finish the story, yeah. It's pretty tempting both ways if you're the NFL. I don't think they're hurting either way.
I mean, a team chasing a third straight Super Bowl, historic.
You probably want them in the Super Bowl, right? Like,
I mean, are people going to want to tune in if it's the Chiefs again, and they have to face the possibility of seeing them win again? Would more people tune that out?
If it's Chiefs Eagles, no one's going to care about that Super Bowl. People are just going to be pissed. If it was the Commanders and
Especially
Chiefs,
since they've seen that matchup before.
Exactly. If it's the Commanders and Chiefs, at least it's like, okay, Jaden Daniels is a rookie trying to take down the Chiefs. Like, there's some real David Goliath shit to that. And then if the Bills are in the Super Bowl, I don't think it matters who they play.
Right.
It's going to be, can the Bills win a fucking Super Bowl? Like, that's going to be the story of the.
I think they're going to get there. There's a lot of sentiment for the Bills. I saw, speaking of wrestling terms, there was a live streamer out of Indianapolis who's a Detroit Lions fan. And of course, she got her heart broken. And she went on Twitter and she says, "I hope the Bills destroy every last one of you." So I think the national sentiment's going more towards the Bills when anybody else's team drops out.
I think if we see one of those polls this week, and it's like, who do you want to win the Super Bowl? And it's like the map of America. It will be like Missouri, Kansas, Kansas City, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Maryland, Virginia, Commanders, and then everywhere else, Bills. I'm sure.
If Dan Snyder was still owning the now Commanders, I think the sentiment would be like 99.9%.
Yeah, probably. Probably. I agree with that. That game's going to be really interesting next week. Division matchup. They've played each other 2 times already in the last 2 months. They played a lot late in the season. And the Eagles escaping the Rams today, who also made a furious comeback in that game. So it's shaping up, man. I can believe we're here, but the fact that it's KC again in their 7th straight AFC title game, and we finally get another crack at them, and to go through them in Arrowhead, it feels right. Like, it would be not.
I've been saying this. Like, of course, if the Texans had won, we'd take a home AFC Championship game against a team that, no doubt, we think we could do better against than losing earlier this season, which was also by skin of our teeth margin, and one play here, one play there could have made a difference. But I mean, you want to talk about finishing the story, you have to go through KC, whether it's here, whether it's there. The Red Sox have to go through the Yankees. The Peyton Manning Colts have to go through the Tom Brady Patriots. We have to go through KC if we want this to be wholly satisfying.
Yes, and the one thing about it too, it's like you just said it was wholly satisfying, because even if they won it without playing KC and anything else, there would always be that notion of, oh, well, whatever, you didn't run into Mahomes. And the KC fans would have that over it. And it would be another little chip on the Bills' shoulder going into it. So it really is a type of deal where, like, just go get it done. Like, go prove that you can do it. And then think about the monkey off your back that comes with this win. Like, not just for this year, but future iterations of this team. Like, this is really this is it. This is the mound that they've been trying to climb to, is to get winning the Super Bowl is obviously the ultimate goal, but just getting back there has been the thing that has been escaping them. We have these divisional, and the thing is with last year, the whole thing with the KC is like, well, if we get them at home, we can beat them. And then they lose the game at home. So it's like, no, just play them anywhere and beat them. Like, it doesn't matter like you just said, it doesn't matter where it is. You're going to have to beat them there. I guarantee you in the next 5 years, KC is going to be in Buffalo for another playoff game at some point. These teams now, what is it, 4 playoff games in the last 5 years they've played against each other? That's insane. Like this is crazy levels of a rivalry where they're basically a division foe at this point. They play each other damn near twice a year, every single year. Pretty much. And eventually, we're both pretty logical at times, I feel like to do that. Eventually, the odds break in your favor. Generally, that's how sports works. And so you would think this Sunday, going into this, and like we both said earlier, feels hell of a lot like a better shot than the last time they were in that AFC title game. If you're giving me one game to go to the Super Bowl, I feel, compared to 2020, 20 times more confident going into this game. Like that's the hope.
We had a much better secondary, and I think a more, because that was Diggs' first year, and we had John Brown and Cole Beasley underneath. I mean, we have an everybody eats receiver room, and anybody can have a big game at any point, but especially with the way some of the receivers were sort of absentee in this particular game, I think our receiving core back then and our deep secondary back then would be a little bit better than what we have right now. But everything else, more so just Josh being a better version of himself, makes me more confident. And these Chiefs, they can look good. They're not the powerhouses they were maybe 3 or 4 years ago, where they can just run over teams. And Patrick Mahomes can just fling it all over the place and pull out his own magician acts. And I think I feel a little bit more confident going into this game.
Well, the biggest difference with the offense from that game going into this game is that offense was such a finesse-based team where they're high-flying and they do have the talent on the outside.
And we now have the three-headed running back monster.
And one of the best offensive lines in the league, too. So we're going to lean on that offensively for sure in this one. It's a big flip on its head going into this one, protecting Allen. I remember him being under fire a lot in that game, too. And it is a big thing, conversely, too. This D-line, so many pie picks invested in it. Von Miller brought in now to win and hit Mahomes in this game. Like, this is what you signed Von Miller for, is to have an impact in the AFC Championship here, obviously.
I saw Ed Oliver pop up at least once in the big plays department.
He did, yeah. He had a nice play with so too. This is the KC offensive line, and specifically on their tackles that have had a tough year.
Yep.
It's the weakness of their offense. So it could be a situation where the Bills' investment into that D line and specifically those edge position pays off in the biggest moment possible, because they need, if those guys win on Sunday, if they win their battles and they pressure Mahomes from the edges, the Bills win this game. Like, it's as simple as that. And it's the biggest referendum on all these being draft picks coming into this game now. Here it is. If Rousseau has 2 sacks and Epineza has a sack or some deflections and Von Miller gets a sack, like, we're sitting pretty next Sunday. That's the scenario it is. But this is a team that, like you said, they squeak by and they do all these things, but they only have 1 loss this year. But the best part about that is that 1 loss is
2 losses. Technically, I know what you
mean. 2,
yes,
The Broncos game, but the one game is the Bills, and I think that the Bills in that game, we talked about it when we talked about it then. The biggest thing that they did was they trusted their run game, they trusted their offensive line throughout the game, where they're like, we're just going to keep leaning on you, and by the end, we will break you. And they did. And it came down to the Allen run at the end, but they did break them. And I think that that's what they're going to aim to do again. I think that they can lean on this defense again. So that's my early lean. I'm not going to give a score prediction or anything else, so we're back on Pay the Bills. But what are your final thoughts on this game coming up next week and today's game against Baltimore?
I mean, there was a debate, I think, on the WGR morning show. Would you rather choose, if you're going to pick a poison of when the Bills, if they exited the playoffs before the Super Bowl, would you rather exit in the division round and have the narrow to be, oh, they can't get past the division and you have 3 straight home losses to 3 different teams, or go to the championship game and lose to KC and it's like, oh, well, you can't get past KC. Well, I guess now we've answered at least one of those questions, or at least we don't have to answer one of those questions. And now it's the potential of, well, you're supposed to be able to beat KC. You beaten KC earlier this year. You look like you have a good matchup against them. They look not bad, but they look more beatable, and we match up better with them than in most years in the past. So if we don't come up with it this time, we fall short of the Super Bowl again. I'm not sure how we're gonna. It depends on how the game plays out. A tight game, a blowout game, one way or the other. I feel a lot like how I felt about this game, where it's going to be a 50-50 proposition going in, and how the game plays out is really going to affect how our mindset goes into the offseason whenever that starts.
Well, I will feel a little better that we beat Baltimore, at least, because Baltimore can be the real frauds that they can't get this done right now. Because Lamar, again, I mean, he had a decent game today, but not enough to get this game done. I want to see what the ESPN predictor is, because it's basically 50-50 all week for our game. Okay, I don't think they have it up just yet, but I'm assuming you're right in that assumption that it's going to be about 50-50 shot here, and I'll take a 50-50 shot. I will gladly.
Maybe it's just me, but going into this game, because we've been at this position in recent years so many times, I was very even keel. I was like, whatever it's going to happen, happens. If it ends now, then I guess we're going to have more questions to answer. Or at least, we weren't supposed to be here. We were supposed to be 10-7, and the Jets and the Dolphins are supposed to win the division. Maybe we just call it found money and free up the cap room that Diggs left us, and, find some more, effective weapons instead of just, distributing the ball around so much. But now going into a championship game that we feel like we should be confident in, now I'm turning into nervous mafia. Not nervous about us losing, but about this the Schrodinger's game. It could go either way. We just have to lift it up and see if it's good or not.
We're here, Mike. Pressure is a privilege, and this is gonna just enjoying this now. Now we're back. It's not uncharted territory, but it's welcome, unfamiliar territory to be back in this situation. So Nervous Mafia, this is the week where I'm okay with nervous. Everybody who's Nervous Mafia, I completely get it. Like you have to be as nervous as you want, because we're here. Like we can taste it. We know the opportunity in front of us. If it's a 1-point underdog going into this game, like you said, basically a pick 'em, you got a 50-50 shot to go into the Super Bowl, and we got to wait a week to get there. Everybody's going to be freaking out. But the thing is, it's not going to be nearly as toxic this week as the Ravens shit, because it was like, punching. They're in the same boat, punching at each other, like who can break out ahead. This is a clear hierarchy here. Like you can't talk shit to Chiefs fans. There's nothing you can say to them. You can say we think we might beat you, but they've got the rings, they've got the home field advantage, they've got everything in their favor. So there's no toxicity. It's more just like, let's see how it plays out. Like I've said all year long, I'll believe it when I see it that a team can beat KC. I still think that I'm gonna probably pick the Bills to win this week, but when I'm sitting there watching that game, I'm gonna be. I don't know. Like the tension today was crazy. I don't know how I'm gonna survive this game this week, but
I'll bet I know how Carson's gonna pick.
Oh, Carson! Listen, if Carson picks the Bills, I'm gonna be so worried, Mike. I'm gonna be I'll be officially Nervous Mafia. But this is the week that you get nervous. This is the kind of game you get nervous for, but it should be good nerves, excited nerves, because the opportunity for the Super Bowl is right there in front of them.
So the elements were a factor today. Just an early forecast for Kansas City. They're going to have a pretty deep freeze going into tomorrow and Tuesday as well, but it should get better by Wednesday. Early forecast for Sunday is 36 degrees and cloudy.
Perfect football weather.
It should be high. It looks like it should be around 36 degrees right around 6 p.m., right around kickoff.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, we'll be back on Thursday for Pay the Bills to break down this KC matchup further and probably be talking out our nerves more than anything as we get closer to the matchup going into the weekend. But Mike, thank you for joining. Thank you all for joining in on this show and all the train wreck stuff we had going on this weekend to get ready for this game. We got another one more at least to win the AFC and then go on to the Super Bowl next Sunday in Kansas City. Where else would you rather be? It's going to be so much fun this week. Huge win over Baltimore today in a classic. Mike, any last thoughts before we go?
You mentioned it.
What would you rather be than right here, right now?
Well, with that being said, Mike, hit us with our ending here and let's get out of here.
Let's go Bills.
Go Bills. Have a great night, folks.
Go Bills.